Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. And for today's video, we have a new synopsis to go over, and this one is for The Flash Season 7, Episode 5, titled Fear Me. So I will be breaking that down, and I'll be explaining this new Speed Force storyline which they could be going for, or in other words, the Force Quest storyline. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so let's get straight into this breakdown. So the synopsis kicks off as followed. When a powerful new villain, Psyche, channels and amplifies everyone's fears in order to wreak havoc on Central City, Barry realizes, with Cecile's help, that he must face his own worst fear in order to beat his new threat. Meanwhile, Joe is surprised when Kristen Kremer from the Governor's Municipal Logistics Commission drops into CCPD for a visit. Iris warns her father to dig deeper on why Kristen is actually there. Caitlin and Frost argue about how to live their lives. So yeah, this is a fairly interesting synopsis as it does reveal a couple of things which I will be breaking down, but also it's quite long compared to the other synopsises which we normally have. I don't know why. Maybe it's due to how many storylines that will just be taking place during this episode. I'm not entirely sure. But also remember, guys, this is graphic novel number 3 because after episode 3, we reach the end of graphic novel number 2, which is the Mirror Master storyline. So after episode 4, we start graphic novel number 3. So this is the second episode of graphic novel number 3. But breaking down the first line of the synopsis. When a powerful new villain, Psyche, channels and amplifies everyone's fears in order to wreak havoc on Central City, Barry realizes with Cecile's help that he must face his own fear in order to beat this new threat. So yeah, we have a new villain joining us this season who goes by the name of Psyche. Now Psyche is this nightmare villain which we saw from set photos, but due to how different his costume is compared to the comics, we had no idea who he was. However, Paigey was able to notice that the symbol on this person's mask had the logo of the Sage Force, which matched that of Psyche's from the comics, which was very great. That was a very great spot. So that's how we were able to assume that this guy was Psyche in the first place, although I just stuck to calling him Nightmare Villain until we actually got, confirmation that he was Psyche. But finally, from the synopsis for this episode, we officially now know that he is referred to as Psyche. Now, just to get into explaining the Sage Force in the first place, the Sage Force is one of the 7 forces of the DC universe and pretty much is an energy field that radically enhances the minds of its user basically, and they're able to use that against their enemy. Now Paigey was able to pick this out as well, but from the episode 10 and 11 set photos, we see this high school teen, I'm assuming, and he's wearing this jacket. Now what's so interesting about this jacket is that it has the same logo, and the logo is of the Still Force. Now this could be the villain known as Steadfast, and he is able to control motion, which is pretty sick. Now the reason I'm going for Steadfast is because it cannot be Gorilla Grodd obviously, and it cannot be the Turtle, so the only other user who uses the Still Force, which I'm aware of, is Steadfast. So this leads me to believe that they're introducing the Speed Force storyline going into season 7's graphic novel number 3, where we will find out that the Speed Force isn't the only force out there, but we have the Sage Force, the Still Force, the Strength Force, and 4 others, in which the 3 of the ones that I mentioned are the most relevant for the Flash. Now I'm interested to see how they will bring these in, because in the comics, the Still Force was founded by Lex Luthor to negate Barry from using the Speed Force, but they won't do that for the show, we know that, so I'm interested to see how they will explore the Still Force. I know we've already seen the Still Force with the Turtle from the Flash season 6, but I'm interested to see how, Barry finds out about the Still Force itself. But the Sage Force and Strength Force was introduced by Zoom in the comics. Now, Hunter Zolomon discovered the Speed Force and the negative Speed Force, and that they weren't the only cosmic forces in the multiverse, and that these forces lay resting due to a force barrier. Now, Zoom was able to manipulate Barry Allen and Wally West into running fast enough to break said barrier, which allowed Zoom to tap into the speed, sage, and strength forces. So one way they could tackle Zoom's return is to play around with this storyline related to this. But again, I think they will find another way to explore these forces. I don't think Zoom will be involved, especially for the first half of The Flash Season 7. Now, from the synopsis, we can infer that Psyche has this ability to amplify everyone's fears. So this is why we called him Nightmare Villain before we actually knew who he was, because on set, we did have Barry collapsing on the ground like he's in some sort of nightmare, and the director shouted to Grant Gustin, "Act like you're in a nightmare." So it will be very interesting to see what Barry sees as that worst nightmare. You would guess Reverse Flash and him witnessing his mother dying again or something like that, but who knows. Now, Psyche has been seen 3 times on set: The Flash Season 7 Episode 5, The Flash Season 7 Episode 10, and The Flash Season 7 Episode 11. Now, what's so interesting about this is that Episode 11 is actually the finale for graphic novel number 3. So this leads me to believe that Psyche will be the main villain after the Mirror Master storyline, and then we will move on to the Godspeed storyline from Episode 12 to Episode 18. But the part about Barry using Cecile's help is very interesting, and actually, I really like this. We obviously saw Cecile's powers grow during the Season 7 finale, so it will be interesting to see what other things Cecile is able to do now that her powers have evolved to a new level. Now, we have actually seen bits of Cecile talking to Barry about this in the Heart trailer that we got, as we had a portion of Cecile saying, "Sometimes when I'm scared, I ask myself, what would the Flash do?" And later on in the trailer, she does say something like, "You run through fear every time you save this city." So those are the 2 lines which you would assume are coming from Episode 5, since they're both talking about fear. So those 2 bits are obviously Cecile motivating Barry to essentially overcome this villain and his fears and to defeat Psyche. But yeah, this storyline with Cecile should be awesome to see as well. But breaking down the next portion of the synopsis, meanwhile, Joe is surprised when Kristen Kramer from the Governor's Municipal Logistics Commission drops into CCPD for a visit. Iris warns her father to dig deeper on why Kristen is actually there. So, starting off, I think this is where the Joe West storyline begins. You guys know I love Joe. He is my 3rd favorite character on the show under Barry and Thawne. So seeing him get this individual storyline is just something I love. Now, in regards to this governor or whoever she is, I think that she will pay a visit to CCPD so that she could lecture Joe in a way due to how he takes care of metahumans, I'm guessing. Because for example, if you take Frost, she has done some pretty nasty stuff in the past. And maybe this governor is wondering why Joe just lets her go, why she's still out there in the streets. Now, the reason to why I'm assuming this is that through set photos once again, we know that a CCPD metahuman task force is established. So I'm pretty sure the reason to this is because Kristen Kramer isn't happy with the way Joe runs things around CCPD. So she adds her own touches on it as well. That's what I'm assuming. But the Iris portion of this synopsis is really interesting, where it reveals that she warns Joe to do some further investigations to why she is over here. So obviously Iris is out of the Mirrorverse. This is a graphic novel number 3. This is the 2nd episode of graphic novel number 3. So yes, Iris will be out, as we saw her out in the Mirrorverse during the ending of episode 2. And I love that she is back doing her job, because that was one of my highlights for season 6. This Iris storyline with her Central City Citizen arc, it was great. And I cannot wait to see this further play out into season 7. Maybe we could have it that Iris just has, this bad feeling about this woman, and after some digging, maybe she finds out some, suspicious stuff about her, and that she has some, dirty history. and then this could be her passing that on to Joe, and then she warns Joe into dig deeper into all of this because she can't, and due to that suspicion she could be, you know, some sort of an antagonist as well. That's why I'm assuming, but I'm not entirely sure. But once again, whatever the storyline is, I'm very interested to see how it plays out. But lastly, to go over, Caitlyn and Frost argue about how to live their lives. Now, I have no idea in regards to what this could be about. Maybe it's some conflict between the two where Frost wants to do one thing with her life, but Caitlyn wants to do another. They just argue with each other about that. I'm not entirely sure. Now, we do know that from DC Fandom, we found out that Caitlyn and Frost will be getting some sort of storyline, and that Frost will develop a love interest. I'm pretty sure Eric Wallace specifically said Frost. I'm not sure if it was Caitlyn and Frost, but Frost will be developing some sort of love interest or something like that. So maybe that could be their conflict, where maybe Frost is attracted to this one person but Caitlyn isn't. Something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure. That's just a guess, but I'm very interested to see how this Caitlyn storyline plays out as well. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Tell me in the comment section down below whether you guys have any other ideas in regards to what this could be about. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.